You are 19 years old. The air in the back office smells like printer ink, mildew, and someone else's cigarette. There is a single fluorescent bulb above your head that flickers every 40 seconds. You've already counted. The desk in front of you is bolted to the wall. On it sits an adding machine from 1987, a spiral notebook with a cracked spine, and a stack of receipts that don't belong to any real business. You are good with numbers. That's the only reason you're here. Not because you're brave, not because you're ruthless, not because you asked. You're here because your cousin Miguel told a man named Rogelio that his little cousin could make the books disappear. And Rogelio smiled with gold teeth and said, "Bring him Friday." It is Friday, and for the first time in your life, you understand that some doors, once opened, don't have hinges on your side. Level 1, the nobody, age 19 to 20. Your job title doesn't exist. If anyone asks, which they won't, you work in logistics. What you actually do is sit in that back room 3 days a week and reconcile numbers that cannot reconcile themselves. Cash comes in bundles. It smells like rubber bands and something chemical. You don't ask what. You sort it. You log it. You create a paper trail that leads nowhere and everywhere at the same time. You are not dangerous. You are not feared. You are furniture. But furniture listens. You learn very quickly that the most powerful thing in any room is the person no one is watching. The man with the gun gets watched. The man with the gold chain gets watched. The quiet kid with the adding machine, he gets forgotten. And when people forget you're there, they say things, real things, loud things. You don't write those things down, not yet. You file them, up here, behind your eyes. Your first notebook has 312 entries by the time spring comes. Numbers mostly. Column A, column B. Transactions coded in a system you invented yourself because no one told you how to do it. They just told you it had to be clean. You make it clean. You make it beautiful. Rogelio looks at your books one Tuesday and doesn't say anything for a long time. Then he says, "Come back Monday. Bring another notebook." You go home that night and eat dinner with your mother. She asks how work is. You tell her fine. She says you seem tired. You tell her you've been studying. Both of those things are true. Level 2, the apprentice, age 20 to 22. You learn the architecture of money before you learn the architecture of consequence. That's the order they teach it to you, or rather, the order you teach yourself, because no one here is a professor. The curriculum is observation. The classroom is every room they let you enter, and the homework is remembering everything you were never supposed to hear. By 21, you understand that the cartel is not a criminal organization. It is a corporation with vendors, payroll, logistics costs, property expenses, and a human resources problem that solves itself permanently. You begin to see the overhead. A shipment lost to a rival crew, debit 400,000. A border official who gets greedy, debit irregular expense, non-recurring. A warehouse burned in Sonora, debit asset loss. The bodies don't have their own column yet. Not yet. But you notice them accumulating the way you notice errors in a ledger, as discrepancies, as things that don't add up, until they suddenly do, all at once, in a way that makes your stomach drop. You keep your face still. You keep your pen moving. You are a filing cabinet with a heartbeat. Level 3, the asset, age 22 to 25. They move you up, not with a ceremony, not with a conversation even. One morning, Rogelio's second in command, a man named Caesar, thin face, calm eyes, the kind of calm that isn't peace, but is the absence of doubt, hands you a phone and says, "This is yours now. Don't lose it." The phone has 12 contacts, no names, only numbers. You begin to understand that you are no longer doing the books for one operation. You are doing the books for a network, and the network has appetites you are now responsible for feeding with mathematics. This is where the blood math begins.
Here is the equation they never show you at the beginning. Every peso that moves through your hands carries interest, not the kind of bank charges, the kind that compounds in favors owed, in silence kept, in things witnessed that cannot be unwitnessed. Every month you stay, the debt grows, not what you owe them, what this life owes you, and what you will never be able to collect because the currency doesn't exist. You are 23 years old when you see the first one up close. You won't describe it. You've decided not to describe it. What you will say is this: it changes the texture of numbers. After that day, every figure you enter in a ledger has a weight that figures didn't have before. The columns look the same, the math is still clean, but you know now what the math is for. You keep your pen moving. You are a filing cabinet with a heartbeat. Level 4, the ghost. Age 25 to 28. You have no social media. You have a phone number that changes every 45 days. You have 3 apartments in 2 cities, and you sleep in each of them with the same practiced blankness. No pictures on the walls, no personal items on the counters. You have trained yourself to leave no impression on any surface. You are a ghost who does arithmetic. By 27, you are managing the financial architecture of a distribution network that spans 4 states and moves product across 2 borders. You have invented 17 shell companies. You have laundered money through a car wash, a restaurant supply business, a small chain of parking garages, and your most elegant work, you think, a non-profit literacy foundation in Guadalajara. The Literacy Foundation bothers you more than it should, because children actually use it, teachers actually teach there, and the money that keeps the lights on is the same money that buys silence and builds graves. You think about that at 3 a.m. sometimes. Then you close the laptop and go to sleep, because that is what you have trained yourself to do. The filing cabinet inside you has grown floors, a basement now, locked rooms, evidence that could bring down governments, not that you've ever let yourself think about it that way. Thinking about it that way is the first step to a decision, and decisions of that kind have a cost column you are not prepared to open. Level 5, the architect, age 28 to 32. They stop calling you a name. Inside the organization, you are referred to a term that translates roughly to the calculator. It is not affectionate, it is not disrespectful, it is simply accurate, the way saying a knife is sharp is accurate. A description of function. You have become function. You sit in rooms with men who frighten entire cities, and they ask you questions the way they would ask a machine. What is the exposure? What is the margin? What does the math say? And you tell them, calmly, precisely, without the tremor that lives somewhere behind your sternum and that you have become an expert at not showing. The bodies have a column now. You didn't name it that. You would never write something so direct, but you know what the coded line item means: operational resolution costs. You enter the figure, you balance the ledger, you move on to the next line. This is the part the movies always get wrong. They show the accountant discovering his conscience in a dramatic moment, usually with a gun to his head or a hero's hand on his shoulder. Real discovery is quieter than that. Real discovery is a Tuesday morning in March when you are entering an operational resolution cost and you realize, without drama, without music, that you are no longer counting for these men, you are counting them. Every name you know, every location, every transaction, every cost. You have been building, without ever deciding to build, the most complete financial and operational record of this organization that has ever existed. Not as a weapon, not as an exit strategy, simply because you are at your core a person who files things. You close the laptop. You sit in the silence. You understand that you are the most dangerous person in this office, not because you have power, because you have information, and information, compounded over 13 years, is the only asset that cannot be laundered.
Level 6. The sentence. Age 32 to present. You are 34 years old. The office smells different now. Better, technically. Real leather. A clean HVAC system. Coffee that someone brings to you without being asked. The desk is no longer bolted to the wall. It is mahogany. It cost more than your mother's house. You have become the thing you were too young to understand you were becoming. You thought the end of this road was power. You thought if you survived long enough, learned enough, knew enough that the crown was the reward. That one day you would sit at the top of the math, and the math would finally make sense, would justify itself, resolve the way an equation resolves, clean and final. You were wrong. The crown was never the reward. The crown was the sentence. Because now you understand the full calculation, the one no one tells the 19-year-old kid with the adding machine and the good grades and the cousin named Miguel. The invoice was always coming. The interest was always compounding. Every year of silence, every ledger balanced, every name filed away in the basement of yourself, all of it was accumulating, not as wealth, but as weight. You are not powerful. You are buried. And the thing that keeps you awake on the nights when the filing cabinet rattles, when the locked rooms knock back, is not fear of the men outside this office. It's the arithmetic. The arithmetic that tells you with the precision you've spent 15 years cultivating exactly how this ends. The margins, the exposure, the likelihood of operational resolution being applied to a calculator who knows too much and has lasted too long. You pick up your pen. You open the ledger. You begin a new column. For the first time in your life, you put your own name at the top. This story is fiction. The character, the organization, and the events depicted are invented for narrative purposes, but the architecture is not. The U.S. Treasury's Financial Crimes Network estimates that between $19 and $29 billion of drug proceeds are laundered from the U.S. back into Mexico every single year. The cartels that move those figures don't just need soldiers. They need accountants, lawyers, logistics managers, people who make the ugly machinery look clean on paper. Most of them don't start as criminals. Most of them start as someone who was good with numbers and said yes to the wrong Friday. The math always collects. If this story made you think, drop a comment with just the word ledger. No explanation needed. I'll know you understood it. Subscribe if you're new. The next POV goes even deeper. See you inside the story.